You just paid $20 for a sack of chicken feed. You carried it in from the car, you tipped it into the bin, and in 4 weeks it will be gone and you will do it again. A sack a month. Call it $240 a year to feed 6 birds, and if you keep a dozen, double it, and you will pay it next year and the year after for as long as you keep hens, because the price only ever goes one way and nobody has ever shown you another way. Let me tell you how I solved that problem. I pay next to nothing to feed 20 hens, and by the end of this video, neither will you. There is a wooden box sitting in my chicken run. You have seen it already. A low wooden frame about 4 feet by 2, sitting on the ground, packed full of green, with a row of hens stood along the edge of it with their heads down, eating. That box cost me 4 old boards and a piece of wire. It has been feeding my hens since April. It fills itself back up every week of the growing season, and I am going to show you how to build it in the next 3 minutes. And then I am going to show you the 5 other things I feed that cost nothing at all, because the box is only one part of it. By the end of this, you will know the whole system, the same one my grandmother ran 60 hens on through a war, and the only tools in any of it are a pair of shears, a spade, and a ball of string. My name is Angus Douglas. I'm a shepherd on the west coast of Scotland, on ground my family has worked for 5 generations. 340 ewes on the hill, 41 lambings. I keep 20 hens, and there is 1 paper sack of feed in the corner of my shed that I bought in the middle of March, and it is August now, and it is still better than half full. I am not starving anything. Come and look at them. Out in the yard, the now 16 brown ones and 4 grey, combs the colour of a postbox, 1.5 dozen eggs off them this morning. They eat. I just do not pay for most of it. Right. The box first, because that is what you came for. It is called a grazing frame, and folk have been making them for as long as hens have been kept in runs. Here is why it exists. If your hens are in a run, you have watched this happen. You sow a bit of green in there, or you throw down some grass seed, and it comes up, and inside one day they have scratched the whole lot out by the roots and eaten it, and they are stood in the bare dirt looking at you. A hen does not graze like a sheep. She digs. That is the whole problem, and the box is the whole answer. Picture the build. 4 boards about 6 inches wide, screwed or nailed into a rectangle. Mine is old decking boards that were lying behind the shed about 4 feet by 2. No bottom. It sits straight on the earth in the run. Fill it with soil, any soil. The stuff out of molehills does fine. Sow it thick, far thicker than you would sow a garden bed, because you're not growing plants, you are growing a carpet. Kale, clover, a cheap bag of mixed poultry seed if you have one, but honestly whatever coarse green seed you have got. And chickweed will come in on its own once the soil is there, and the birds will thank you for it. Now the part everybody gets wrong, and if you get this wrong the whole thing is stripped bare in one day. The lid. You put a sheet of wire mesh over the top of the frame and you fix it down. Not fine mesh, something with a hole about 1 inch across. Big enough that a hen can put her head through and take the tops off the green. Small enough that she cannot get a foot in to scratch. That mesh is the entire secret. The green grows up through the wire. The hens walk on top of it and along the edges of it, and they crop everything that comes through. And because they can never reach the roots, it grows straight back at them, week after week, all season long. Without the wire, the box lasts 1 day. With the wire, it feeds birds for months. Give it a week or 10 days to get away before you let them at it. And if you build 2, you let them at the first while the second is coming on, and swap them over. And now you have green in front of your birds from spring to the back end of the year, off a couple of square yards of run for the price of some seed. That is the box. That is the picture on the front of this video. And now you can build it. But I will tell you the truth. The box is the smallest part of what I do, because you do not need a box at all for most of it. 5 more things, and every one of them is already growing right now for free, and 4 of them are within 30 feet of where you are sitting. You do not need a seed catalogue for any of what is coming. You do not need a greenhouse or a heated bench or a grow light. You do not need good soil. You do not need warm weather, and that is the whole reason I'm making this. And you do not need to spend $1 more. Now, you will have seen a video like this before. 6 plants, replace your feed, grow forever. And the list will be moringa and sweet potato leaves and duckweed and banana stems. Picture those. A moringa tree in dry heat with the sun white overhead. A banana plant with leaves the length of your arm. A green pond under a hot sky. Now picture your own back garden in February. Wet, grey, mud at the gate. 4 of those 6 will not grow for the most of you watching. Not in Scotland, not in the north of England, not in Canada, not across most of northern Europe, and not outdoors in a good half of the United States either. Why does nobody say that out loud? Because a list of tropical plants gets watched in every country on Earth, and a list of cold weather plants only gets watched in the cold half of it. The first is worth more money. So the advice gets written for the map and not for the person standing in the rain with a wet sack. Everything I'm about to show you grows in cold, wet, miserable ground. It has to. Look at where I'm standing. Grey stone wall, wet grass, the hill going up into cloud. It rains here 2 days in 3 from September, and there are corners of this place where nothing has ever grown but rushes. One more thing before the list, or you will cut the right plant in the wrong month and it will do nothing for you. This is not a plant list, it is a calendar. A hen wants 3 different things through the year. In spring she is laying hardest, and an egg is mostly protein. In autumn she is dropping feathers all over the run and growing a whole new coat, and a feather is almost pure protein, so spring and autumn, protein. Through the summer, bulk green to keep her gut moving and put the colour in a yolk, and in the dark months, energy and something to do. Picture her, 3:30 in December, near dark, wet ground, 7 hours of black ahead of her, standing in a shed with nothing in front of her. 5 plants plus the box. Between them they cover the whole year. That is the system, and this is what we have always done. Every cottage in Scotland had a kale yard. A kale yard, not a flower garden and not a lawn. A strip of rough ground behind the back door growing coarse green stuff for the pot and for the beasts, with the hens in among it scratching, and it fed the family and the birds together through the winter for 400 years. The house had a kale yard the way the house had a door. Nobody thought it was clever. Our way costs an afternoon and a ball of string. Their way costs a sack a month and a lorry that drives 200 miles. Right, the 5. Number 1, and it is the best thing in this whole video, and it is the one you are most likely to be cutting down and burning. Nettles. Picture the patch behind my old stone cowshed, chest high, dark green, standing in a bank against the wall. I have never planted it, never watered it, never fed it. It has been in that same spot since before I was born. Dried, a nettle leaf runs around 20 to 25% protein. That puts it in the same country as the expensive part of what is in your sack, and it carries iron and calcium and carotene along with it. That last one matters. Carotene is what puts the colour in a yolk. Not the brand on the sack, not the breed. Green leaf. Now a hen will not eat a nettle standing. She's not daft, mind. 2 ways round it. Cut it and leave it lying in a heap for a day. Come back next morning and the leaves have gone soft and dark and the sting is away out of them and the birds take it fresh off the ground. Or dry it, which is the better way. And that is the last thing I will show you because it is worth the whole video on its own. Cut a nettle bank in June before it flowers and it is back up by August. 2 crops off ground you were not using for anything. Number 2, fat hen. Now, why would anybody name a weed after a fat hen? Because this is a plant folk fed to poultry, and the birds did so well on it that the name stuck, and it is now the proper name of the plant in English. Not a nickname, its name, in the books, sitting in plain sight the whole time. Here is what to look for. A tall, upright weed, dusty green, anywhere from a foot to 5 feet, with leaves shaped a bit like the foot of a goose. It is in every vegetable patch and every field margin in the country. And here is what tells you for certain. Turn a young leaf over. The underside has a white, mealy bloom on it, like somebody dusted it with flour. Rub it with your thumb and away it comes. Good protein for a green, high in minerals. And if you let some stand into the back end of the year, the seed heads get eaten as well. It is in the same family as spinach, so it goes in as part of the mix, and not the whole of it. Pull it, throw it in the run. That is the whole of the method. Number 3, chickweed, named for the job as well. Nobody was being subtle. Picture a bare patch of soil in January, everything else dead or under mud, and spread across it a low mat of small pale green leaves with tiny white star flowers looking soft and fresh and completely out of season. That is chickweed. And that is why it earns its place. It grows in the cold, it comes up in autumn, sits green all winter, and it is there in January when there is nothing else alive out there, which is exactly when a hen has no greens and exactly when her yolks go the colour of a paper bag. How do you know you have the right thing? Take a length of the stem and pull it apart slowly. There is a fine white thread inside, like a hair. That thread is chickweed and nothing else has it. A double handful in February is worth more than a wheelbarrow full in June. Away out and rake it up with your hands where it is thick. They know fine what it is. Number 4. Kale. The kale yard plant, and it is here for one reason: hardy. Picture a kale plant in February. Frost white along the edges of the leaves, everything else in the garden flattened and brown, and this thing standing there dark green and perfectly happy. Why does frost improve a kale leaf? Because the plant turns its own starch into sugar to keep from freezing. The leaf is sweeter in February than it was in October, and the birds know it before you do. The old stock kales, the tall 1,000-head sorts grown as fodder for cattle, stand 4 or 5 feet, and you cut leaves off the stem all winter without killing the plant. Sow it in the box, aye, but sow a few in the open ground as well, and here is the use of them, which is the part nobody tells you. Do not pick the leaves and scatter them on the ground. Hang the whole stalk on a bit of string at the height of a hen's head. Now watch. She stretches up, gets a hold of it, and the whole thing swings away from her. She goes after it again. Another bird comes in from the other side. Greens on the ground are trampled and fouled inside 10 minutes. Greens on a string get eaten entirely, down to the ribs. And that swinging stalk keeps a whole flock busy the better part of an hour in February, when a bored hen would otherwise be pulling the feathers out of the bird in front of her. Once feather pecking starts in a flock, it spreads, and it is very hard to stop. A swinging kale stalk is the cheapest cure for it there is. Number 5. Comfrey, the mineral plant. Picture broad, rough leaves the size of a dinner plate, in a corner where nothing else bothers to grow, and under it going down through the subsoil further than anything else in the garden, one thick taproot. That root is the point. It hauls potassium and calcium and phosphorus up out of ground no other plant is reaching, and puts it all in the leaf. A laying hen is putting a hard shell on an egg every day of her life, and if the calcium is not coming in, she pulls it out of her own bones. Plant one root cutting, and it is there for the rest of your days, cutting 3 or 4 times a season. I have had the same 3 plants in the same corner for 22 years, and never given them anything. Now, I have to tell you the honest truth here, because there is a story going round that comfrey is a complete food, and you can feed it by the wheelbarrow load. Comfrey contains compounds that, taken in quantity over a long time, are hard on a liver. That is not a rumour, it is well documented. So comfrey is a supplement, not a bulk feed. A few leaves a week, wilted a day and chopped. Used that way, it is one of the best things you can grow, and I would not be without it. That is the 5, and the box makes 6. Nettle and fat hen for protein. Chickweed and kale through the cold. Comfrey for minerals. The box for steady green in front of birds in a run. Now I have to tell you the honest truth about something bigger, and this one is going to cost me. This will not take your feed bill to 0. I know what the front of this video says, and I'm telling you plain that a laying hen wants a steady protein level and a steady calcium level every day of the year, and green stuff is variable. And anybody who tells you weeds alone will balance a ration has either not done it or is not counting. Here is what it will do. You saw the sack in my shed. March, and still half full in August, feeding 20 birds. That is the difference we are talking about, not 0, a fraction. The bill cut to 1/4 of what your neighbour pays, and birds in better feather than his, with yolks the colour his cannot buy. That is the true version of it. The other version sells better, right enough, and I am not selling anything. Now, the last thing, the one I said was worth the whole video. Nettle hay. Nobody does this anymore, and everybody used to. My grandmother did it every June of her life. Picture her out at the nettle bank with a pair of shears and a ball of string in her apron pocket. Cut the nettles in June before they flower, while the stem is still soft. Gloves and shears. Tie them in loose bundles about as thick as your wrist. Stems together, ordinary string. Hang them upside down in a dry place with air moving through. Picture a row of green bundles hanging along a rafter in a shed, upside down, going slowly grey-green over 3 weeks. Why upside down? Because whatever goodness is in the stem runs down into the leaf, and the leaf is the part you are keeping. Why in the dark? Because sun bleaches it, and the first thing the sun takes is the carotene, which is the very thing you are doing this for. Loose bundles, mind, not tight ones. A tight bundle goes mouldy in the middle, and mouldy anything is the last thing you want near a hen. 3 or 4 weeks and the leaf is crisp. Strip it off the stem into a paper sack and crush it in your hands. The stems go on the fire. And then, in December, on a black morning with frost on the gate, when your yolks have gone pale and everybody round here is complaining their hens have stopped, you take 2 handfuls of that green crumbled leaf and stir it through a warm mash and carry it out in a tin. Picture the steam coming off it in the cold air and the birds coming across the yard at a run. The colour comes back into the yolks inside a fortnight, and it cost you 1 afternoon in June and a bit of string. It took me until I was well into my 30s to work out what my grandmother was actually doing out there with those shears. She was not being thrifty. She was banking the summer. Nobody has paid me for any of this. There is nothing in this video that needs buying. 4 old boards, a piece of wire, a pair of shears, a length of string, and ground you were not using anyway. And I will say the wider thing, because it is the reason I bother. None of this was ever specialist knowledge. There was a kale yard behind every cottage in this country, and the woman who ran that house could have named everything in this video and told you which month each was for. That was ordinary, the same as knowing how to bank a fire. 2 generations later there are more hens in back gardens than at any time since the war, and almost nobody was taught 1 word of it because the chain broke. And into that gap came a shelf of paper sacks with a picture of a hen on the front, and a great many videos telling folk in cold, wet countries to go and grow bananas. Every shepherd I know who keeps a few birds says the same thing. The plants are already there. Nobody told you what they were called. So, here is what I want you to do this week, and it is 3 things. Build the box. 4 boards, soil, seed sown thick, and the wire over the top. The wire is the whole secret. Give it a week before you let them at it. Go out and learn fat hen and chickweed. Just the 2 of them. The white bloom under the leaf, and the thread inside the stem. Once you have them for life, and they are on your ground the day. And cut 1 bundle of nettles, tie the stems, hang it upside down somewhere dry, and forget about it until Christmas. Tell me in the comments what country you are in and what is growing wild on your ground, because half the plants that will feed your hens have a local name I have never heard, and I would far rather learn them from you than guess. I read every one of them. Next time I am going to show you the winter feeding, not what to feed, when. There is 1 hour of the day to feed a hen in December, and it is almost certainly not the one you are using, and if you shift it the birds hold their weight through the cold, and some keep laying when everybody else round here has stopped. My grandmother fed at that hour every winter of her life and never once explained why, and it took me 11 years to work out what she was doing. Until then, build the box, learn the weeds, hang the nettles.